Pleasant good day, everyone. This is me fulfilling a promise that I made to myself and that I want to do for us, community, for those of you who work with me, organizations, schools, school boards, community groups, whoever you are. I want to make sure I understand the beauty in being in a live keynote, the beauty in being in a live session, a panel, all that kind of good stuff. But I also know the beauty in being able to going back to the content to remind yourself to share with others. And this is a promise I made. It's taken some time, but here we go. This is the first one, part one of me sharing summaries of some of the conversations I have had during Black History Month. My video is a little bit blurry. You can't see me as like I do the most because I'm not using my original camera, but that's it. It's not about me. It's not about me in the video. It's about the content. So I'll be sharing with you as in the series. So this is the first one. I did this conversation on February the 12th with a particular organization. You can see that I took out the organization and I did that intentionally. And this is something that I really want to start the series with, so to speak, because the conversations around mental health and navigating changing environments, whether they are at your work or they're outside in your family, in your home, in your personal life, it is something to navigate. And I think many times, we forget that sometimes there are necessary skills and reminders of how to adjust, how to adapt, how to navigate, how to move forward, how to pull back, how to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And so I know this would be good for a reminder for many of us today. But today, the organization really wanted to focus on mental health. And so as Black folks, we look at a lot of the things that stress us and what that impacts our mental health. And as you can see, it's a lot. I actually created this picture from AI. I'm taking my time with AI. I'm very, very taking my time, so to speak. So I do few things. This is one of the things I try. You can see that all the words didn't come out, but you get it. And I think, especially in the workplace, I want us to understand, and especially everybody listening to the allies, the co-conspirator, but to just everyone listening, that when you are going through changing environments inside and outside of your workplaces, it takes a toll on us, right? The stress, the overwork, the tokenism, the erasure. I remember at this event, I shared with the group, with the audience, that the first time I experienced what we call white silence, I will never forget. I will never forget driving home that day thinking, did I just experience that? Did this just happen to me? I said, oh, and I was happy it happened to me because, there's a lot of us who speak about things that we know nothing of. And for me to have experienced that moment, I know I can theorize it. I know I can write about it. I know I can research about it. But for me to have experienced it at that moment, I was like, oh, wow. Wow. And I still drove home thinking I was in a space where I carried a level of power. I carried some authority. I carried a strong sense of self. And I remembered how it felt. And I go, wow. And so I want us to be mindful that even in the workplace, I should say, even in the workplace, there are many things that impacts us, right? Especially as Black folks, racialized folks, because that is the audience, we're talking to, and of course, our extended audience, because we all need to understand what's happened to Black folks within organizations, especially if you are a non-Black folk and you are listening to this and you work with, supervise, manage, and I always begin with the word work with. Because oftentimes when we think about the things that are happening with anti-Black racism, racial aggression, racism, the real mess happening within our institutions and our organizations. Sometimes when we call on leaders, and I see it happen a lot when they ask me questions, especially in panel discussion, they will always say, well, what do we ask leaders? And I understand the idea of going with leaders first, because leaders lead first. I know it sounds whatever, right? and you put that automatic responsibility, authority on leaders. But I want to remind all of us that some of the most powerful people in our organization who have done the work and have done the work of affirming, have done the work of disrupting, have done the work of loving and caring, have done the work of speaking out, are the persons who don't carry certain titles. So I've said it many times, I am very big on titles because titles, many of us have earned those titles, and it's a respect thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's an appreciation thing. But I'm also not big on persons who have titles that they don't walk in. And that's why one of my saying I say very often to say to people, walk in your title. And so we see, of course, you have seen some of the impacts. And I want to take us back to Gloria Ladson-Billings. You'll hear me talk about her quite a bit, somebody who have been inspired by her work on culturally relevant, responsive pedagogy, but also just inspired by her voice and the things she understands and teach for years about Black children and Black educators. And so this is somebody that I absolutely admire. I used to always make a joke, and I mean it, that she's in my top 10, you know, of academics that I treasure. And I remember joining a line twice to hear her speak. And I'm sure I'm going to join a line 3, 4, 5 more times if I have to listen to her words, to be encouraged, to be enlightened, to be inspired. And I want to take a minute to say that as well. Many of us who are doing whatever work we are doing, I hope you have people in your life and people outside that inspire you, ignite you, motivate you to do well. I am humbled whenever somebody said to me, Dr. Campbell, you inspire me. Oh, I go into my body and make sure I sit in my body for a while to understand the responsibility that it carries to inspire and motivate people. And so Gloria Ladson-Billings reminds us that race is always already present in the social configuration of our lives. You know, I laugh, and I'm going to be unapologetic. I laugh when I hear especially Black folks be like, well, I don't focus on race. I do me. I laugh because your race is the absolutely most visual, most in your face, most significant characteristic that people see. I get it. You know, I've heard it. I've sat at tables and hear Black people speak. You know, nobody does because I know me. I know me. But the world don't know you. I'm going to have to tell you. The world don't know you. And every time you enter a new space, you enter, like Gloria Ladson-Billings says, you enter these spaces raced. You enter these spaces as a Black person. And so I want to take a minute to ensure Black people who say those things, say, I'm going in, who say those kind of things, just, I understand your level of self-awareness and self-affirmation and self-care and self-love because, hey, I can raise my 2 hands. You can make me feel less than. But I also am aware that I enter spaces as a Black man with a beautiful, strong Jamaican accent that I will never, ever lose. And so when you enter spaces with these identities, as Gloria Ladson-Billings says, that seems to enter the room before you do, it is something to navigate. I noticed how she used the word plagued. Notice, she said plagued. Think about a plague. When I learned in Sunday school, the plagues in Egypt, plagued, it's everywhere. You can't hardly get rid of it. You open your door, it's outside. The plague, I remember the dust and the locusts. So I want you to understand that these things are around us. And the value I appreciate of using the word intentionally. And so we have to navigate. And so I love this other picture that I created. I use this picture, and it took me a while to find, quote unquote, the right picture. But I wanted a picture that, oh, thank you, ancestor, that featured resilience, rest, joy. And I did put resilience there. And you will notice later on in the series how I dissect resilience and talk about it a little bit, you know, with the nuances, because many of us, we have grown up on the resilience narrative that actually is true. Our entire survival today is because of our resilience. But we have to also think about the places and the times when we should not have had to be so resilient? Where was the love and the care? And so I use this apart. I think many of you have heard the story of this picture already. When my mother was going through cancer, and I was coming home quite a bit to look for my mother. And I was doing a lot of work. This was in 2020. This was the summer of 2020, and I remember I took a lot of pictures in 2020. I take a lot of pictures, period. And I remember taking this picture of myself in the water, and I will never forget how I wrestled with myself. Should I post a picture of me at rest? We're talking about self-care. We're talking about Black Joy. We're talking about rest. We're talking about the things that allow us as people to be well enough. Remember what we're talking about, and the word opportunity. What are those opportunities? Well, one of those opportunities is to seize the moments to make sure we rest. And I remember how much I struggled to post this picture, because I said, people don't want to see us in rest mode, because almost it's as if rest devalues your making the bath. Your rest devalues your doing the work. Rest devalues you being the Superman and the Superwoman and the Wonder Woman, and the Spider-Man that we want to project ourselves to be. And I've said it from 2018, I've been saying this. I have learned how to take off the S off my chest, how to take off the B off my chest every now and then, to realize I'm not Superman, I'm not Batman. And so I want us to realize rest is important, but I struggled to share this picture, because in that moment, so many things came into my mind about what society want us to be. I apologize for the shaking of the screen. I'm literally doing this in my lap, because I'm not at my desk, I'm not at my home, but I need to create the series. And this is such a beautiful, opportune moment I'm sitting in my body, and this is the right timing. So thank you for that. And so, Audrey Lord, remind us. Many of you know, but we need to be reminded. I love being a reminder. I have said it many times that I do certain workshops. I don't come to tell you anything new. Yes, because sometimes you do not need anything new. I know some of you would say, well, we want something new. No, you don't. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. And I say that with all my energy. Sometimes we don't need anything new. We don't need anything new. What we need oftentimes is a reminder. A lot of us who struggle with loving ourselves and caring for ourselves, we need a reminder of when we were loved and when we were cared for, when we were interested in preserving who we are. And yes, that is my job. My job is to ensure that I provide to all of us a reminder of those things that keeps us grounded, keeps us alive, keeps us in our right mind, keeps us sane, keeps us safe, keeps us energized. And I take us back to Uncle James, Uncle Baldwin. He said to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. I think about how long this was said, and I think about what's happening now in America, now in around the world. I have to be honest with you, and I'm glad I have people in my life who can remind me. I have to be so careful. I used to hear people say it long ago, careful how you watch the news. And I'd be like, why have to be careful? We have to keep up to date. But when you sit around the news, what's happening, you get angry. If you are in tune with your body and with what's happening around you, especially as a Black person, you are enraged because you see the hurt and the harm and the racism. You see it right now. Racism is high in America. We see it in other places. We see Africa going through it. We see the answer and the ways in which intimidation is happening in certain spaces. But I also remind myself, and I'm glad I have those in my life to remind me, that if I'm constantly taking it all in so much, you will never, ever, ever get to experience what I'm talking about here. Black joy, which I'm going to talk about a lot more. And so part of that rest is also taking care of yourself. And so I want to leave it to you 5 reminders that I left with this group. And is ensure there's oil in your lamp. I will expand on that in another episode, so I'm not going to expand on it today. Ensure your black joy is nurtured and protected. Again, I'm going to be expanding on black joy because there's a talk coming up. And then I'm going to also remind us that you deserve softness. Again, I will expand on softness because it's so funny, are so amazing that all of these individual opportunities I shared on this particular conversation, that I was requested by other groups to talk about them individually in different spaces. Learn how to choose you and seek community. I'm going to talk about community quite a bit, and I want to leave us with community a little bit as well. I want you to remember the power in community. I want to leave you with this for today. I want you to remember, I use a lot of water analogies. A lot of water analogies I like to use, drink from a cup, not an empty cup, pour into others, pour into self, carry the water, who will drink water, talking. And sometimes we fail to realize that when we talk about a well, that before there was water drawing from that well, before there was ease, I felt that just now, before there was ease and access, before there was ease and access, there were community builders who did the work. I just want to take a minute to big up all of you, people who are intentional about building community. And community can be tricky. Let me say that right now. I don't want to make it a fairy tale like, oh my God, once upon a time there was a community and they lived happily ever after. I'm not going to play that foolish game. Because I'm telling you, community is something else. I have seen, yesterday I was at a brunch and I was saying to people, they are still using the same old tactics with us as Black folks. It's called divide and conquer. You look around and see how divided we are in everything. They're still using divide and conquer. So if you're at an organization, like I'm a part of a Black caucus at the University of Toronto OISE campus, you have to work at maintaining group energy, group force, community impact. Because I'm telling you, by yourself, you can do some good stuff. I do give myself credit and pat on the back for the things that I've done by myself. But if you have listened to me over the years, I remember in my book that I wrote in my teachable moment to DR.ABC, you should get a copy. And one of it, I wish I could have a copy to show you now. And in one of those things I said, in all you're getting, make sure you get people. In getting your house and getting your car, getting your nice clothes and getting this and getting that, in all getting your degrees, in all you're getting, make sure you get people. Because sometimes, I should say sometimes, we're going to need people. And I see it many times. I've seen people who do not pour into community. When things hit a certain space, they rush in for community. I've had people request of me help and assistance, and those are the same people I've seen, and I'm going to say it unapologetically, you never see them in community. You never see them interested in a gathering. You never see them pouring in to community. If you are one who goes only to the well to draw water, I'm going to encourage you, find out when your community is building the next well and pull up with a block, pull up with a shovel. Thank you, ancestors. I feel that. Pull up with a hoe, pull up with something to dig to build a well. Because you yourself is going to need to draw. I'm going to leave you to remind you that we have to continuously grow. When you grow, you glow, and then you go. I'm going to leave you with that because I want to show the entire script, and that was it. But I want to leave you with this page. This page. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Share this video with your friends. I'm not asking you to share because I need any kind of return or any kind of monetary gain from influence. I keep on telling people I am not a social media influencer. I influence lives and I'm privileged to do that. But and you can use this video without requesting permission from me. It's open access. Use it in your group. Pull your group together at work. Use it. Talk to each other about it. Unpack it as well. That's why I pour it into community so you can draw from it. Have a wonderful day.